The following episode discusses graphic violence, rape, and slavery, because we can never just have good things, and that includes ghost stories.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're in the place where mysteries and the missing meet, where conspiracies lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Deep, Dark Truth.
Welcome back to the Deep Dark Truth. I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Mikey.
And today is what you have all been waiting for. Today is the day that Chip tells us the story of the secret murder chair, as heard about in our introduction episode. We'll also be talking about other cursed objects because we needed a theme and to fill space. Let's just be honest. But before we get started, you should know that half of this episode was filmed at the beginning of quarantine. It sounds a little different. That's why we don't have the same mics anymore, which you should be thankful for.
You completely ruined my cover story. I was going to say we were on the run and this was us hiding in a bush.
Oh, that's what's happening. I just wasn't going to tell you because I don't have a big mouth.
Well, fuck you too.
Since this is not my story, this episode belongs to Chip. So we are going to make Chip tell us all
This
about...
is my chair baby and my mirror baby.
We're going to make Chip tell us all about cursed objects. So, do your job. Now. Do it.
Yes, ma'am. So, there is a cursed mirror at...
Oh my god, I love these episodes.
Once upon a time, on a little plantation known as Myrtle's Plantation in Louisiana, a man, Clark Woodruff, marries a woman, Sarah Matilda Bradford, and joins her and her family at what will be eventually Myrtle's Plantation. Right now it's some other stupid name.
They fancy. They got 3 names.
Oh yeah, it made it a little confusing for a second.
Sarah Matilda.
Clark Woodruff helps take over the plantation when his father-in-law, something Bradford, blah blah blah. He's not important to the story.
We do a lot of research around here, folks.
I disregarded his name.
We really dig in. I think this is a perfect follow-up episode to the Tanner Barton episode. It's like, we don't care anymore.
Every name was important in Tanner. Every single one. Clark Woodruff starts sexually abusing a particular slave in the household, Chloe. Chloe, because she is a slave, doesn't fight back. All of the sources were like, the affair. Everyone called it the affair. And she,
Yikes.
didn't want to be sent back to the fields. And I'm like... You get what slavery is, right? There's a reason she didn't fight back, and it's because she was gonna be murdered. But he starts chronically abusing her, and over time, Chloe becomes paranoid that Sarah Matilda, the wife, will find out and punish her, Chloe, for it. So Chloe starts eavesdropping on conversations, and eventually is caught, I believe, listening at a keyhole, and Clark Woodruff cuts off her ear in punishment.
Ugh.
After that, she's started wearing a green cloth wrapped around her head like a turban to hide the scar, because everything is wonderful.
I have no proof for this accusation, but based on previous episodes, every ghost or, cursed thing in the South was because some old rich white man raped a slave.
Conclusion true.
I'm convinced of it.
Yes, it seems to be a recurring item.
Fact.
Why is there no good ghost stories?
Where's the fun, happy ghost who died laughing? Wait, those are
When
scary.
I was a kid, there were just murderers and people from saloons. Just saloon ghosts, if you will. Oh, and the occasional Elizabethan woman. Anyways, ghosts used to be nice. And now I'm old and I know the context of the origin stories, and they're all horrible.
Sometimes ghosts just die of diseases. Sometimes we just have a nice plague and...
Big tuberculosis, because they're being quarantined on Ellis Island. And they didn't show up to the island with tuberculosis, but they were made to stay there until they got it. Those ghosts?
Yeah, they're probably not happy either.
Sorry. Anyways, it's fine. Everything's fine.
So, Chloe has her ear removed. Passive voice. No. Clark cuts off her ear, and the abuse continues. And so, at some point, Chloe decides to poison the family.
Oh.
Go, Chloe! Round of applause! Everybody needs to take a step.
Snaps for Chloe.
Some like to theorize that, she just wanted to poison them a little so that she could then nurse them back to health and be the hero.
No.
Or
no,
maybe
no.
she wanted to murder her enslavers and abusers. Either one.
Yeah, that's the one. For sure.
Final answer.
So she bakes apparently a birthday cake for one of the daughters. I forgot to mention earlier, they have daughters. Cornelia and Mary.
This is starting to feel like the origin for the help. Like there was actually some coded message in the help that we weren't aware of.
Yeah.
I support this message. She bakes a cake poisoned with oleander, and Sarah and the two daughters die. But fearing retribution from Woodruff, the other slaves on the property mob Chloe and hang her and kill her themselves to, avoid, look, we're not associated with this.
That's unfortunate.
Was Clark not poisoned, or did he not eat the cake?
He wasn't on the property at the time. He was off.
Why'd she kill the kids? Maybe they wouldn't have mobbed her if she wouldn't have killed the kids.
Well, it was a birthday cake, supposedly.
Well, why would you poison all of the females and not the master slave owner? It doesn't even make any sense. Chloe, you're smarter than that.
Yeah, you should have killed that man, Chloe.
He should have been target number 1, right?
Yeah, you're making bad murder decisions. I support your struggle, but you should have thought this through.
They all hang her together.
Yeah.
Where is Mark during all of this? He's not there, obviously, when they die,
Clark!
right?
His name's Clark!
Clark, sorry.
I forget specifically, but he was off on a trip. He's a judge, and before that a lawyer. He has business to attend to.
So when does the hanging happen? Like, directly after? Is he still not back before that happens?
Yeah, it's fairly, that night.
Oh. Okay.
Oh shit, now we're gonna get punished too.
I mean, I do understand that mentality. Like, the fear of retribution, people thinking that they were involved. But also, she killed the kids. She didn't kill, head of household.
I mean, she also killed the mother.
Yeah. The whole family.
But wasn't it just conjecture that the mother might know and kill her?
Well, that was the fear that...
I mean, if he wanted retribution, he's still going to go after them whether she's hanged or not, right? Like, he doesn't know whether they had anything to do with it or not. And now there's 4 dead bodies.
It's just appearances' sake. Oh, she did it. It had nothing to do with us. And
so we took care of it.
Yeah, so we took care of it for you. Because we're loyal to you. Mind you, they weren't loyal. They were just, scared they were going to die.
Right.
Reasonably so.
Saying that they weren't loyal was not a dig.
They have no reason to be
loyal. They
absolutely
should not be loyal.
Actively anti-loyal.
Yeah.
And then during the funeral, I don't know how the death works. You have to cover all the mirrors in the house, but one mirror was left uncovered. And so the souls of Sarah, Matilda, Cornelia, and Mary were trapped in the mirror forever.
I don't know how death works.
Is there a tradition of covering mirrors after a death?
Thought that was a fairly common thing, yeah.
Really?
There's still religions that think that mirrors can take your soul and stuff.
Or that they're part of the in between the spiritual and the material world. There's a way of transport or whatnot.
Yeah, and this is 1823.
Right.
Superstitions are all over the place.
Actually, people still practice this in Judaism. During Shiva, they cover the mirrors. And they're covered for 2 reasons. It's eliminates a chance of distracting somebody from concentrating on the deceased friend. So you're not looking in mirrors at yourself. You're not being vain. You're not thinking about yourself. And then there's also possibly some kind of belief that during Shiva, evil spirits may attach themselves to reflections of mirrors. So this is something that is still practiced today. I knew that there were some religions that believed this, but I didn't know that Judaism was one of them.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that. I knew I heard about it somewhere, but I would have never guessed that.
And that is a little different than this one, which was prevent these particular dead souls from not getting to the afterlife, not avoiding demons. Although, one could argue slave owners.
I have so many questions about mirrors now. I know that, like, particularly in paganism, that some people use mirrors to scry, and, like, people would use them as divination tools.
Bloody Mary.
Classic.
Yeah, those traditions have carried throughout in things like Bloody Mary, even in fiction, like Harry Potter, the Mirror of Erised.
Yep, and Lock and Key.
Things like that.
Lock and Key on Netflix uses the mirror as an interdimensional world.
That's right.
Yep.
That is a scene. I gotta tell you, that mirror scene.
Defy the laws of physics. Thou shalt not look upon thy own face.
So the idea is that the two daughters and the mother souls inhabit this mirror, and that's why it's cursed?
Yep, visitors to the plantation turned museum, like, see the handprints on the mirror for when it's been cleaned recently, or there are drips that can't be washed away. That's a weird one.
Which is, I've found on some mirrors everywhere.
Especially antique mirrors. I have an antique mirror in my upstairs bathroom. The mirror starts getting blackish, if you know what I mean, and it has like this weird spidering effect that happens.
Okay, but that's super haunted.
I'll just stuff it in the closet and it can just be haunted in there.
Is this still on display?
Yep.
At this plantation?
Currently.
Okay, and this is turned into a museum, kind of, sort of?
Yeah. Classic plantation turned museum.
Is it turned into a museum because of the plantation itself or because of the curse?
There are other reasons as well, and there are other ghost stories associated with this museum.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, plot twist. I have just now realized that Chip has decided on a format for this episode without either of us knowing it. We've walked right into it. And that is the Beyond Belief with Jonathan Frakes format.
How dare you scroll down in my document?
Because what, Chip? What are you going to tell us? Was that truth or was it fiction?
That was all fiction.
I can't believe you got me so hyped.
Wait, so this is just a story that you created?
It's an urban legend.
It's a story that got passed down as if it were truth. I didn't make it up, moded, and it's all a bunch of bullshit.
Dare! How dare you? I didn't even write the script for this episode.
Mo, you wrote the script. You've wrote our characters since day one.
Now I've wrote your characters to write scripts.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
The mastermind.
See, now you're
behind it
catching
all.
on.
In actuality, Sarah Matilda, daughter Cornelia, and son James died of yellow fever, all within about a year of each other, not on the same night. There was a third child, Mary Octavia, who did live, and lived into adulthood, and married, and has a grave somewhere in Connecticut.
Was Chloe still hung, though?
Bonus round, there was never a record of any slave named Chloe, or anything similar. Chloe didn't even exist.
Didn't see that one coming.
I'm more mad that somebody made up this horrific, fictitious urban legend. They just made this fictional character suffer as a slave and be raped. And I'm really mad about it. And I don't know how to put into words why it angers me so much, but it does.
Supposedly, this story got started, like in the 50s. The family who was living at the Myrtles at that time, like, had a family joke about, like, when a weird thing happened, they just, somehow got on the name Chloe, and the story spread from there.
The people that see these things in the plantation-termed museum, has there been anything linked to this plantation that was tragic in some way, that there could have been a different ghost that wasn't made up?
I mean, there was this other one that's... I didn't write down his name or anything because I wasn't going to focus on him, but there was someone who was shot and died on the porch, and it wasn't Clark.
So Clark was probably this, nice stand-up judge.
I mean, no, he owned a plantation, and he was still garbage.
That was what I was getting to, thank you.
Yeah. Should we name the ghost? I feel unfortunate that the real ghost doesn't have a name. And by real ghost, I mean the other made-up ghost that doesn't go with the story anymore.
He's semi-real. Well, his story got bullshitted too. He was shot and died on the porch, but the story goes that he crawled with his bullet wound up the stairs to die in the arms of his loved one, and you can hear his footsteps on the stairs, blah blah blah, but he never made it to the stairs. He was dead long before.
And how very dramatic. What a drama queen.
So they basically turned this slave plantation that was useless after slavery and came up with all these ghost stories to turn it into a haunted museum attraction.
Oh,
Very
weird.
Upsettingly common to profit off these plantations in such a way.
I don't understand. They're just glorified farms. Just farm things. You have one job. And it's to farm things. Dead serious. Just farm things. Because it would still be a beautiful historic building.
And also, these museums never focus on the slavery. They're always, and slavery happened here, but look at this architecture.
White people love architecture. I'm a white people. They don't need to create as many, hooks to get people to come when the plantation was owned by somebody that was famous. So, for example, Monticello is not suffering for tourists, right?
Correct.
They don't need to say that, Sally you can hear her in the attic. They don't need to do that.
They don't need to drum up business.
They're not like, oh, Thomas Jefferson, he's in the cellar sometimes. They don't have to do that.
I'm sure they do, but they don't have to.
I bet they probably do. You're probably right.
Ah, here it is. William Winter. That's Mr. Stairs.
Mr. Stairs. Let's just call him that. It's way creepier than anything else.
I like that.
Mr. Stairs. The true ghost of the Myrtle Plantation. I gotta tell you, I'm glad that wasn't real, but I'm mad that I got hyped just for it to not be a real story. The murder chair better be much better. That's all I have to say about that.
Well.
Great.
It's less certain.
Great.
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. And I've been waiting for since I was 12. 11?
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we have to welcome our newest patron, Amanda, and let you know that at perks like the following, merch and bonus episodes can all be yours by heading on over to our Patreon, whose link is in the show notes. With that said, let's have a word from one of our Patreon sponsors. Is your shit ugly? Did you buy something that you thought looked nice, only to see that the Karen behind you at the grocery store has the exact same Michael Kors purse? And you're rethinking all your life choices? Then you need to stone your shit. And the only answer is Rhinestoneable. Rhinestoneable reinvents quality items with a bit of sparkle. And the sparkle is made of Swarovski crystals. Head on over to the show notes for links for everywhere that you can follow them. And send them a DM if your aesthetic needs an upgrade. Alright, you can proceed with your murder chair now.
It is my murder chair.
You can't sit with us.
Oh, you can sit with us.
Want to sit with you. Get the fuck away from me. Get out of my face.
It's like the big red button. I'm gonna sit in it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna...
I would probably sit in it too. I'm gonna be really honest. I'd be like, oh, what you gonna do? What you gonna do, chair?
Because then I'll know that I'm the supreme when I sit in it and nothing happens.
I asserted my dominance over a chair.
5 days later, Michael dies. I just locked myself in a padded room. It's coming for me.
Okay. In any case, to recap, for those of us who all listened to the intro episode, I was in middle school, and I was hanging out in the basement with my friend, and we were watching Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, as hosted by Jonathan Frakes. And the whole premise of the show is that they do this little sketch, and at the end of the sketch, you're supposed to guess, was this based on a real-life creepiness or a fake creepiness? And there's this one, and this guy, he buys a chair that's, supposedly cursed, and his maid sits in it and dies, and, his friend sits in it and dies, and he's like, who bought this chair? And his lawyer or business person, I don't know, comes and is like, this chair was owned by Napoleon. Ah! And so
I like how you just said that, like the episode of Futurama where Fry finally gets to the future and he's like, welcome to the future of tomorrow. But continue.
It's basically how dramatic it is. And so me and my friend are like, obviously this cursed murder chair is fake. There's no way this is even based on a pretend legend. But then the screen flashes. Fact! And we get scared of the desk chair and run upstairs. Because chairs are scary and can murder you. The actual chair that this story turns out to be based on, well, there's two of them. The episode goes with Napoleon's chair. And so there's the story of the Napoleon's chair that there's a picture of him, a portrait that was painted of him sitting in this chair the day before he was defeated at Waterloo. So, bad chair.
Defeated or, like, died?
Defeated. He was sent away and died in obscurity. I don't know my Napoleon history beyond his chair, but I know he didn't die.
Just like the only thing I care about is this chair.
Yeah, what do I care about Napoleon himself? And there's not a lot of information on this chair, except, like, that this idea exists. There's not even, like, WordPress and live journals about, like, people's personal theories about this chair. No one talks about Napoleon's cursed chair. But if you go looking for portraits of Napoleon, you can't find any with him sitting in any chair that looks even remotely similar. Because there's the chair that we have in modern history that everyone's like, this is Napoleon's chair. As you can see in the pictures, dear fellow co-hosts, do either of those portrait chairs look anything like that chair?
All three very different chairs.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like this chair has faded with time and now looks different. Nah, these are different chairs.
Yeah, they're wildly different. I would say maybe perhaps the coloring on two of them is slightly similar, but even then, those are not the same color. That is maroon and that is burgundy.
This is the big criticism of
not
the
to get all queer eye, but that's what it is.
And then the chair itself is like what, cream or beige?
Yeah.
With floral design?
So as far and the modern chair that has the actual picture of it is there's this chair that's been in museums. It's like this is a chair of Napoleon's. It's probably the cursed one. But there's no stories of the curse like documented anywhere. There's just like, hey, 4 people sat in it and died. Like there's not even like a made up story to go with it. The most modern history for the Napoleon chair specifically is that it was going to auction, and then I don't know who bought it at auction, because no one bothered to mention. But that's the boringness of the Napoleon chair. The story was probably more based on this other chair, what's his name? Bubsby chair. Busby? How would you say it?
Busby.
In any case, the story of Busby's chair, pick your own pronunciation, is he was some con man, and he had a bad relationship with his father-in-law, who was Daniel Udi, and so the story goes that Udi didn't like that his daughter married Busby, and Busby had his favorite chair at this bar, and one night Busby comes in to find Udi sitting in his chair and being like, I'm gonna take my daughter away because you don't deserve her, and also I'm sitting in your chair. And Busby's like, oh hell no, and so he murders his father-in-law and like buries him in the woods.
This is next level Sheldon Cooper. We don't kill people for sitting in our spot.
I mean, I have a spot on my side of the bed.
I also have a spot.
But what if your father-in-law came to say he was taking Michael away? And also sitting in your spot.
Yeah, murder.
I can't imagine a world in which any of that would happen, but do I get to keep the house?
No, because you get caught and put to death.
Okay, never mind. I don't like this story.
Did he get caught?
Yes, he Got caught. I think more likely is he and his father-in-law were in a coin counterfeiting business and they got in a fight over that. But he didn't, like, murder him there in the bar in front of everyone. He murdered him, like, in secret and then got caught because he's bad at hiding bodies.
I was just gonna ask that. It sounds like there was a lot of witnesses.
No.
I was thinking that, you know, if he didn't shoot him in the bar, that he shot him outside the bar, or that people witnessed the argument, and so when he just died that day... Weird.
It's more like they witnessed an argument, and then he murdered him with a hammer, and the body was found in the woods very shortly afterwards. But also people like to tell the story as if he just murdered him right there as he was sitting in the chair. So,
gotcha.
Which sources do you want?
I mean, the ones that he wasn't murdered in the chair in the middle of the bar, because that sounds fake.
So then the story of how he gets caught and the story of how the chair is cursed goes two different ways. One is he's being taken to the gallows to be not hung. He wasn't hung, but something like that. And he's like, I want my last meal to be at my favorite bar. So they take him to his favorite bar and he sits in his chair. And he's like, anyone who sits in my chair will suffer and die, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets killed. Or... it seems more likely to me, he was at his bar, sitting in his chair when he got arrested. And in that moment, he was like, fuck anyone.
Gotcha.
Not he, like, requested to be brought to his chair. That seems weird to me.
I don't know. Death row requests, if it was me, I would be like, yo, can I get a hooker? Like...
this is my favorite hooker, and anyone who has sex with her
is cursed to have chlamydia.
Was pizza around at this time? Because that might have been my last request.
Yo, can I get a Hungry Howie's up in this bitch?
But also, like, at this time, like, they did honor, like, last requests.
Yeah, they
that
still
was
do.
A huge thing.
Yeah, either way, he curses this chair, and he is hung for his crimes of murder.
He's killing people. I feel like I shouldn't be rooting for him at all.
No, we're certainly not rooting for him. There's no one we're, like, rooting for in this story. The chair? I'm rooting for the chair.
I just feel like normally the person that sets a curse, you're like, yeah, that they deserved to set that curse.
Right,
You know
like when the witch is burned at the stake and she curses
Exactly.
everyone.
It's usually, like, justified in some way, and you want to be rooting for them, but,
no,
it's not always. No. I mean, villains do it all the time, right?
Yeah, but I like villains normally.
Yeah, you see, villains are queer-coded.
Not like, yeah, not real-life villains. Like, not Jeff Bezos or something.
He is not queer-coded.
You know, TV villains. Like Crowley.
Agreed. So he curses and he dies, and then it's just sort of the chair hangs out in this pub that is his favorite pub, or he might have owned it. It's unclear, because there's no documentation from the 1700s about murder chairs.
I mean, fair. Although you would think that there would be, with how superstitious they were, you would think they'd be like, murder chair. Serious
Absolutely
business.
true.
They want to find the maker and kill them. Whoever made the murder chair.
Do you know what the pub was called?
I can find it because they renamed it to Bubsy's whatever.
Still around?
Oh, so it basically then took on the notoriety of his name and the murder chair, and they renamed it.
It is now called Busby's Stoop Inn. It's in Sand Hutton.
Yeah, I don't know where the fuck that is, but that's fine.
I'm giving you names for Googling.
I know, thank you.
Is the chair still there, or just the notoriety and, like, the chair is not there?
The chair is no longer there because it gained such notoriety, because it actually has a couple stories with it, unlike the fucking Napoleon chair. So, you know, like, chimney sweeps sit in it and die, and then a roofer sits in it and he falls off his roof that he's fixing, and a cleaning woman dies of a brain tumor after sitting in it. That one feels like a stretch to me.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like how brain tumors work.
This is a cancer-causing chair. And, you know, a delivery man died shortly after, like, on his drive away from here after sitting it.
Wow. Maybe this is a murder chair.
At the time of World War I and II, like, this chair has its notoriety. I think the pub might have already been renamed. And so the Air Force men are like, ha, I'm gonna go sit in the murder chair, ba. And then they sit in it, and shockingly, they go die in the war. That's a curse right there.
That sounds like statistics.
What? No.
I mean, some of the other ones, okay, but I don't think we can count anyone sitting in the chair and then going to war. And weird, he died in the war where everyone was shooting at each other. And we also can't count if people die of the plague. Statistics.
Someone died in this chair and then got cancer and the plague and fought in a war and died.
Okay, that one I'll be like, curse chair. The end.
So how many more people, I mean, a delivery man? I mean, how many people had died before they, like, caught on this might be a fucked up chair?
I don't know, it was like, because they were using it as like an advertising, as it were, back in the day. Like, hey, haha, we got the silly cursed chair. But then eventually an owner was like, I'm gonna move this downstairs. No one's allowed to sit in this anymore. And then, I think that was the delivery guy. It had been moved downstairs, and the delivery guy was downstairs doing something. He was like, I need a break. I'm gonna sit in this chair. And that's when the owner was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I knew this was gonna happen again. Shucks.
There's one more interesting one there was this trucker guy who he picked up this airman who was hitchhiking. And so they're driving along and they stop for a bathroom break. And the driver sits in in the evil cursed chair while he's waiting for the airman. But he gets bored waiting for the stupid airman, so he goes driving on his way and abandons him. And later, the airman tracks him down and murders him for abandoning him.
What?
Like, you left me behind, you jerk. You were giving me a ride. Now die.
Andy Kane. And that is why we don't pick up hitchhikers, kids.
No, that's why you don't abandon hitchhikers.
I don't know, guys. I said at the beginning I would sit in the chair. I don't think I'm going to sit in that chair anymore.
I mean, I'm going to sit in the chair, but not, like, directly before I fly or go to war or do anything that is, like, directly tempting fate.
And it could also be that, probably thousands of people sat in this chair and didn't die, right?
Yeah, almost certainly. People die after sitting down.
I don't know.
People die on the toilet all the time, and that's a statistic you can take with you.
Do you know where did they stop at that pub where the trucker, is that where he sat on the chair was when it was at the pub?
Yeah, it was at the pub. And eventually the owner of the pub and the chair, whoever that was at the time, it was in the, it was after World War II, so it must have been 50s, 60s, 70s. Eventually the owner's like, no more, and he donates it to the Thirsk Museum. And now at that Thirsk Museum, it is hung from the ceiling, so no one can possibly sit on this chair.
Interesting.
And then somebody tried to sit on the chair, and they fell, and they died.
Weird.
It's almost like falling from the ceiling hurt them.
So was it the chair or the gravity?
Gravity is a curse.
Damn you, Sir Isaac Newton!
So I was going to be dark and morbid and say, if I were, either I have a plan to kill myself, or I'm planning to disappear myself and make it look like I'm dead, I would absolutely pay some money to sit in this chair. That would be so good.
See? But that is why, with the Kenny Veach thing, that it came up. I think a lot of people would enjoy the mystery of, was it because of this? Especially people that are already into those things.
Yeah.
Like you're like, it's funny because the murder chair finally got me. All the way from when I heard it from Jonathan Frakes.
Middle
Riker
schooler.
came to me and said, one day
You will die in a chair.
They never made a horror movie off of this. It seems like it would be horror gold.
Oh god, but it would be shitty B horror gold, where they just sit in the chair and then they look directly at the camera and gasp. And
Excuse you, they made an artistic rendition of an interpretation of it on Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction.
Did they?
Yes, that's out.
That's how this show works. It's like watching a bad true crime show circa 2006, and there's really bad B actors really badly overacting, this scene is recreated. It's like, yeah, I guessed, because that person's been dead for 25 years.
Thank you for that. But like, it totally has the vibe of The Ring or Final Destination to it.
It does.
Like, you could definitely make a horror, like, just freak accidents that would happen. Like, obviously this guy's getting murdered by a brick. I mean, that's it's a little out of obscure.
Yeah, and I mean, the other chair has Napoleon's name on it, so that sells tickets. So, it's weird that there's not a major motion picture.
Would you go see a horror movie called Napoleon's Chair that the preview is some girl gasping as soon as she sits in the chair and her friend going, "Are you all right, Susie?" And she's like, "I don't know, I just had a chill." Like, would you go see that?
I would hope they wouldn't just name it Napoleon's Chair.
Is it called Murder Chair, or did you just name it Murder
I
Chair?
call it Murder Chair.
So what is it called?
The Hooded Chair was the name of the episode. The Chair of Death, Bubsy's Stoop Chair.
So it has a lot of different...
You could literally call it
names.
anything you want.
I mean, it should be The Cursed Chair, shouldn't it? That's the horror title that I'm choosing. The Cursed Chair? Death's Throne?
I mean, if you're going the Napoleon route, you go Throne, Cursed Throne, something like that. Pub Stool.
Love it.
Death by Stool? Nope, that's
That
that's
means,
different.
That means something that would attract an audience.
Yikes, the audience that would attract.
We're not kink shaming here.
I am.
That's another kink. That's related.
Kink shaming is my kink. I only selectively utilize it, but I'm
You
doing
draw the
so
line
right
at two
now.
girls, one chair.
Yes, that's where the line is.
How we go to fetishes from a murder chair, I have no idea.
Very
This
quickly.
podcast never surprised. All right, so would you guys sit in the chair?
I mean, I would,
Without
I would sit
hesitation.
in the chair.
Yeah,
Whether I have a
You
plan
would,
or not,
without-
I'm sitting in
Yeah.
the chair.
but you're not superstitious, Chip.
Exactly.
I am superstitious, but I would still sit in the chair. Because all of my things that I'm superstitious about have been handed down to me. Like, I hold my breath driving past cemeteries.
Yeah.
Like,
Same.
dumb shit. I put up my feet when I go over railroad tracks. It's just dumb shit that my grandmother made me paranoid about. So it's not about the superstition as much anymore as it is about the I've been doing this since I was very young and I'm just gonna keep doing it because it's a fun time and it makes me feel close to my grandma.
Classical conditioning.
Operant conditioning, I think. Thank you very much. Classical conditioning is an autonomic response that you
You're-
can't control.
You're 100%. You are correct. I confused them.
This has been Psychology 101 with Chip. Finally, I'm putting that degree to use.
I don't know, we psychoanalyze murderers a lot in these parts.
And that's the murder chair that I've been thinking about since I was approximately 12.
I want to go to the Thirsk Museum now.
No, I'm not going.
It's up on the ceiling.
So, did the murder chair live up to everything that you hoped it would?
A
Chip?
little bit. The Napoleon chair was pretty disappointing, but at least there's a murder chair out there.
It's probably cursed. I'm not going to sit in it.
It's hung from the ceiling. It must be murderous.
What if somebody paid you $100 to sit in
No.
the chair? $1,000 to sit
Probably.
in the chair? Yeah. We all have a line, my friend.
You heard it here.
You have found
Mikey
yours.
can be bought.
I never doubted you. I just wanted to know what the number was.
So, listeners, will you sit in the murder chair? Cursed chair? Did we decide cursed throne was our branding?
I think murder throne is pretty zappy.
Yeah?
Got a good ring to it. Thank you for listening. I've been Chip.
I'm Mo.
And I'm Mikey.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
You just listened to the Deep Dark Truth Podcast. See you next time. And remember, your local cryptids want to meet you.